Many brands, when they get an influx of cash, invest the money straight back into the next drop. However, as you may have found already, that's not necessarily the most profitable way to go about things. In fact, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table. And so if you can trust me with the next 20 minutes or so of your time, I want to show you an alternative way to reinvest your profits, one that I hope will leave you more profitable than before. Let's get into it. What are we going to be covering today? We're going to be talking about why invest at all. Why not just keep the money? And then we're going to be looking at two types of investments. And then finally, the best investment you can make today, whatever size brand you are, whether you're just starting out or whether you're 100 drops in. But why should you even listen to me? Well, by the way, my name's Elijah. If you've never come across my work before, and in the last 12 years, I've started about 10 businesses. Well, not about, exactly 10 businesses, because I counted the other day. And although not all of them were technically official, some of them were when I was quite young, I'm still counting those. And I've used my earnings from every other business that I've ever started to invest in this one that I'm doing right now, helping streetwear brand owners turn their side hustle into a full-time job. And I've coached a number of streetwear brands in how to reinvest their own profits, leading to sellout clothing drops. And that is a metric that I hope is somewhat meaningful to you, that maybe you care about. By the way, before we get into everything that I'm going to outline today, please go to elijahdelport.com/school, where you can sign up to be a part of a free community of other motivated brand owners. On there, I have a school masterclass on how to turn your side hustle, your streetwear side hustle, into your full-time dream, and it's 100% free. So please go. It's in the description. You can click on that link and sign up for free. Pro tip, watch this in 2x speed. Okay, let's get into it. So why would you even invest at all? Well, there's a few reasons. And the first is that you can't expect money out without putting money in or time in. Both those are two different types of investments, money and time. And we're going to look at both of them. But it's a pretty simple concept. You can't expect an output unless you make an input. And the thing is, by investing, you've got nothing to lose. But by not investing, you've got everything to lose. In other words, your dream. If you're not where you want to be yet, if there's still some space between your current situation and your desired state of business, you've got nothing to lose except for that dream by not investing. And so by investing in yourself, investing in your business, you can make steps to make your dream a reality. And so I think that's something that's worth investing in if it is truly what you want to do. And I imagine you're here today because going into your streetwear brand full-time is truly something that you dream of. So let's go into two investment strategies. There are two, and these aren't the only two. However, these are two that I've outlined. And the first one I'm going to call the increased supply strategy. And it goes something like this. First, you earn some money and you want to reinvest your profits. Okay? Very noble thing to do. Not noble thing to do, but it's a very reasonable thing to do is what I'm trying to say. So then what you do is you increase the product quantities for the next drop. Maybe this drop you did 100. And so with your extra cash, you decide next drop I'm going to do 150 garments instead of just 100. But however, when you launch that drop, it takes you longer to sell out. And so your reputation among your customer base as being a hype brand deteriorates because they see it takes you longer to sell out. So there's a less urgency around purchasing your products. And so with a lack of urgency, customers aren't driven to buy. And this leads to decreased revenue in the end because some customers who are driven by urgency, and when there is no longer that urgency, won't buy at all. And so this a strategy to reinvest, which was very reasonable, when you reinvest into the supply, sometimes when the demand isn't there, you can actually decrease your capacity or your potential to earn an income. And so this can actually hurt your business. So why does this happen? It's because you've increased supply without increasing demand. And it is really because you've got the same number of customers, however, you've got more product that you're trying to sell. And so, as I mentioned in the points before, the time to sell out decreases. The time to sell out increases, as in it takes longer. So this brings me to strategy 2. And this is one that is I don't see as much among amateur brand owners, and it's to increase demand. Instead of increasing supply, you want to increase demand. And this is how I would go about reinvesting your profits in order to increase demand. Let's have a look. First, you earn some money and you want to reinvest your profits. Starts exactly the same way. Very reasonable goal. Then, instead of increasing your product quantities, you invest into content creation, which in turn grows your audience and customer base. All things being equal, you double your audience on social media, you double your customer base. And I want to make known some assumptions that I'm making here. It's that you don't have a physical in-person store. You are a social media e-commerce business, right? And that is what is driving nearly 100% of your sales. And so you double your audience and you double your customer base, all things being equal. So you reinvest into your content creation, your audience grows, and the time to sell out decreases. That's to say that instead of taking 1 day to sell out, you only take 12 hours or you only take 90 minutes. And that means you invest, and then eventually you increase the supply slightly. And then over the long span of time, your revenue is increased. What's happening here that's the difference? Both times you're increasing the supply, but it's happening at different times. It's that in strategy 2, what you're doing is you're holding off on increasing supply, and think about it like a pressure chamber. It's like you're building up the pressure, building up the pressure, building up the pressure. You're reinvesting everything into growing your audience every time. You're reinvesting 100%. Grow your audience, grow your audience. So there's more people to buy the product. However, there's the same amount of products, right? So imagine if you had 100 units that you needed to sell and you had 100 customers. Right now, you're increasing your customer base. So now you have 150 or 200 people that are ready to buy, but only 100 products. So everyone's rushing in there at the same time. Demand is rising and rising. Supply is staying the same. It's like a pressure chamber waiting to explode. And then so when you increase the supply slightly, you increase your revenue, but you never increase the supply more than the demand, because the risk of doing that is that you end up with leftover stock, or it takes you a really long time to get rid of it, which means you're spending more time trying to get rid of stock than applying that time to other income earning tasks in your streetwear brand. And we all know that as a solo brand owner, there are so many hats that you wear, so you cannot afford to do that. Time really is money. And so this is the benefit of strategy 2 in comparison to strategy 1, where instead of reinvesting into increasing the supply for the next drop, you reinvest into your audience, your customer base, and you increase the demand, and then over a long period of time, you slightly increase the supply, and that's how you increase your revenue. Lots of increasing, right? And so this is how you increase demand with social media. And that's what we're going to be looking at, or talking about for the rest of this presentation, is how do you actually increase demand with social media? And this all comes back to the point. I keep mentioning it. Nearly 100% of your customers come from social media. And so if you want to increase your revenue, invest in where your customers are. It blows my mind how many brands are out there that their customers originate on social media, and yet they don't invest in where the customers are. All it takes is for you to think for a second, where is the source of the money? Where is the source of the revenue? Who is holding the money? It's your customers. And where do they come from? Social media, probably Instagram. And so why wouldn't you put more time and money, resources into exactly where your customers are coming from? Because, I mean, again, all things being equal, you double your investment into a place, you double your return. And so if right now you're getting 100 customers from social media, you double your investment into social media and you'll get 200 customers in return, right? It doesn't work exactly like that, but I'm just trying to make a point that investing into social media, if that's where your customers are coming from, is worth it. And don't miss out on this opportunity. And this isn't both time and money. If you're currently doing 1 hour a day on social media, which you should be doing at least, can I mention? If you're currently doing an hour and all of your customers are coming from social media, then do 2 hours, and then you'll probably increase the number of customers that you have right now. Simple as that. Okay, so let's talk about investing in content creation. So first, financial investments, things that cost you money, right? It's always going to cost you time, but this definitely costs you money. And there's 2 ways to go about this. The first way is increasing the quality. This is how you can grow an audience, by increasing the quality. It's by making, like, your content on social media. It's a competition between your videos or your photos and the photos and videos of every other person that's posting in your niche, especially, but across the whole platform, across any niche, right? Among clothing brands and among every other business that's posting on there and trying to get the attention and the credit card details of your customers, because they're not just buying clothes. And so by increasing your quality, you stand out. And so you can increase the quality of the videos themselves by financially investing, increasing the production value of the videos. Think about right now, if your production value is $0, a simple way to reinvest your profits from your last clothing drop is say, well, what kind of video would I make if I had $50? Just $50. You could probably do a hell of a lot, right? And you may not be able to make the direct link between that video that you make and increase sales. However, indirectly, hell yes, you can, because you're increasing your audience, you're increasing your demand over the long run. If increasing the production value of your videos means that you can grow your audience, it's absolutely worth it. And if you believe you can do that, go for it. Another way you can increase quality is by commissioning a videographer or an editor, right? You probably don't have enough money to hire one on your team part-time or full-time yet. So just start by commissioning them, right? And make some content. Think about kind of content that you can make outside your clothing drops. Like when you're not dropping clothes, what kind of value content can you make within your lifestyle or within the message that you're trying to share that's storytelling or entertaining or educational or inspirational? Still on brand to you, but not necessarily about your clothing. Maybe about the idea behind your clothing or about your brand. And for that, you can commission a videographer and editor and do some bigger projects. Another way you can invest financially into your content is a way in which that saves you time. So freeing yourself up for other income earning tasks or to make more content. And so one of those ways, like before, is to commission an editor, except for this time, it's not only for quality, but also to save time, right? And you could go about this a number of ways. You could simply, if you're editing all the content as of right now, you could commission an editor and they can simply take over what you're doing in editing, and they could edit all the content you're making so you don't have to do any editing. Or alternatively, if you wanted to dramatically increase your content output, right, which would accelerate your audience growth in theory, you could commission an editor so that they could edit exactly what you're editing now, and you could continue your editing schedule, which means you're doubling your output with the same amount of work. You just add some financial investment so you can accelerate your growth. Another time-saving financial investment is commissioning a videographer. Same one before, but different objective. And this might be that you spend a lot of time filming your videos. Well, have someone film them for you. You don't have to set them up. Someone else can set them up for you. It's a really good way. And then, of course, there's ad spend as well. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into ad spend, but it's worth mentioning that ad spend is a financial investment that you could make in order to grow your audience or increase the demand for your garment by increasing your audience and your customer base with ad spend. And so that's another financial investment you can make. But financial investments aren't the only type of investment. And I mentioned earlier that there's also time investments. And these are really important because time investments are great because they don't exclude anyone. That's to say that if you don't have money, spend time. And it goes vice versa. If you don't have time, spend money. Right? I learned that from Alex Hormozi. If you don't have time, spend money. If you don't have money, spend time. And so, I mean, you can't have neither of them. The whole point is, with a business, you're probably going to have to spend one of them or more of one than the other, always both. But here's some good time investments if you don't have much money or much freed up cash to spend as we speak, right? There's, of course, the content ideation, creation, and editing. And so what I want to do is show you what I use to plan my content. And this is, let me bring this up here. Yeah. So this is my content reporting, content planning document, and I have it for each month. And so for the month of June, what I have is the date, the title, the notes, the type of content, the call to action, the number of views, likes, and comments, so I can report and see what's worked and what hasn't, the platform, and the status. And under the status, I have complete, in progress, complete, and uploaded. And with this table, what I'm doing is I'm tracking the content that I'm making. This is me investing time into increasing my output. And so my goal at the moment, as of making this presentation, my aim is 7 outputs per week on Instagram, 1 output per week on podcasts, and at least 1 output per week on YouTube, and 7 outputs per week on emails, right? I don't record the emails in this content plan document here, but everything else, yes. And so here, of course, I've got the weekly podcast, right? That's exactly what we're doing, listening to right now, or watching if you're on YouTube, because it goes up to YouTube as well. And then I have all of my other content plans here. And so please, I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, please steal this template and use this strategy. Simply planning and measuring whatever you're doing allows you to improve it. And so if you're wanting to increase your content output, it starts with good ideation. And please, use ChatGPT. I think it's a great tool for ideation. And so put in your, tell ChatGPT a bit about your streetwear brand, put in your niche, things like that, and let it give you content ideas. Put them out on a spreadsheet like this and simply create them. Just make them and upload them according to the times. And so you get to pre-decide how many outputs you like per week. And so that's a time investment you can put into content ideation, creation, and editing. Another time investment you can do to grow your audience, or rather, maybe this one's more increasing or improving the quality of your audience, is by engaging with them. And that brings me to the point that community isn't created just by you saying that you have a community. It doesn't come from nothing. Community has to be cultivated, and it has to be facilitated, right? That's a good word. And the best example I can give is when there's a video and the comment section is absolutely empty. As an audience member, I'm not prone to make a comment because I feel like I'm putting myself out there. I stick out like a sore thumb if I'm the only comment on a video. So it's hard to break the ice, like any conversation. However, if you, as the account owner of the brand, start the conversation by commenting on your own posts, you break the ice, making it so much easier for everyone else that comes in and comments on there. And so how does this link to increasing demand for your garments? Well, again, it's indirect. However, it is absolutely relevant. You increased engagement on your posts. You boost your posts. It boosts your posts, increasing engagement. Instagram thinks that, okay, people are engaging, people like this, or at least they're interested enough to engage. Let's boost it. The other thing is, it creates customer loyalty, because when people are engaging with your platform, they are more prone, when they're consuming it and engaging with it, they're more prone to stick around for longer. And the other thing is that engagement is a proxy representation for sales. In that a person that comments on every single one of your posts is more likely to buy, because they're more likely to stick around. They'll see more of your clothing drops, and so the statistical likelihood of them actually contributing to your sales or contributing to the demand around your product, at least the perceived demand, is increased. And so that's some of the time investments that you can make into growing your audience asset, growing your demand, investing into content creation. Now, the second thing here is investing in education. And now this is, I say second thing because there's kind of a third thing, because there's time, there's money, and then there's no time and money come under both of these. Let me start again. This is the second thing out of investing in your content creation, and then investing in education. Now, this all comes under the umbrella of audience, right? Because you'll see what I'm going to get into with education is all to do with increasing your audience. However, this is a very much overlooked strategy of investment into your brand, because again, I find that anything, even for myself, anything that doesn't have direct return outputs, like return on investment, is not very favorable in our human brains, because we don't see the investment straight away. Also, we don't see the return straight away. However, the indirect return on investments are sometimes the largest return on investments, the most profitable ones. And I think this definitely goes for education. So let's talk about some financial investments into education. You could go to university. I wanted to include it on here. I have not been. I would not go to university. I personally wouldn't, because in my mind, there's only two reasons you would go. It's either for a qualification or for education. If it's for a qualification, then fair enough. You don't really have a choice. If you want to be a doctor, you just got to get your doctorate. But for fashion, there is no qualification for fashion. Second, education. If that's the only reason I'm going to university, I have to consider what other areas of education there are. And university, quite frankly, is not the best education for brand owners. Now, this is coming from someone who's never been to university. However, I know people that have been to university. I've had many conversations about it, and I've thought through it for a very long time. And I think if university is even in the question, you have to raise the other options of education. If that's the only, you have to ask yourself the question: is university going to be the best education I can get for this? If that's the only reason I'm going, all I'm suggesting. Other types of education could be courses or some other sources of private education or private mentorship. And when I'm talking about education, what exactly am I referring to? In terms of growing your audience, education could be learning about the hook retention payoff formula, or learning about how to create good hooks, or learning about SEO. I think I list it somewhere else. Maybe I'll get to it. So the time investments, on the other hand, could be free research resources like YouTube, articles, and Instagram. Okay, yes, here's where I list it. So you could be like, this is about education around attention hacking, hook retention payoff structure, or search engine optimization, storytelling, right? These are the type of things that actually have a massive payoff in the growth of your audience that can increase the demand around your garment. You can reinvest your profits into the education of yourself that have indirect positive returns on investment. And I want to double back over that last point there on the free research resources being storytelling. That's a really underrated one, because good stories get shared, and the ability to share a good story is such an underrated skill. But those who learn it are able to create companies that have such influence in culture. And influence in culture, in other words, in business terms, is demand for your product. Think about some of the companies, the clothing brands that have the largest and most influential demand over any other brand, like Supreme, for example. People lining up down the street, waiting for hours outside the store, camping out for their latest drop. They implement storytelling all over, from the brand itself being a vessel for the culture of New York City and the stories around that, to their marketing. They have a whole page on the website called Random, right? And it's just filled with stories that they make. They reinvest into making these short films and documentaries and just random things. But they're not that random, because they're about New York City culture. And that's all storytelling. So it's so underrated, but such a good skill to invest in. Another free time investment is into the Streetwear 365 Masterclass. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I have a community for streetwear brand owners to help you turn your side hustle into a full-time job. And I've recently launched a course on here, and it's 100% free. You can join. There's a link in the description wherever you are consuming this content from. And inside the Street Cred 365 Masterclass, there is 7 lessons here, 8 videos and 7 lessons. And they're all about building your brand foundations. And so this is something that will take, there's like 5.5 hours of content just in this module, which is a significant time investment, but one that's valuable if you're serious about turning your side hustle into a full-time job. So just to read out some of the lessons in this module. Welcome to week 1. Lesson 1 is how to make more money. Lesson 2 is goal setting and finance tracking. Lesson 3 is giving crazy value. Lesson 4 is branding 101. Lesson 5 is writing your story. Lesson 6, filming your story. And lesson 7 is a recap and what's to come. So this is massive. And like, if you access this inside the school community, you'll also get access to all the resources that I reference in the course itself. For example, there's a whole budgeting sheet. And inside the budgeting sheet, it has I've created this resource that allows you to put in like how your finance goals, your annual income goals, annual revenue goals for your brand. And then it shows you actually how to get there with how many drops you need to do, how much you need to sell your products for. Like, it's just super valuable to see this laid out on paper. That's just one of the lessons, and there's heaps of stuff in here. And so I wanted to include that in the time investment you could make, because I believe it's a resource that helps you for free to actually increase the demand around your product, which in turn will help you increase the revenue, which has an end goal to help you turn your side hustle into a full-time career. So go to the link in the description and you can get that masterclass course and training 100% for free. Okay, so yeah. Overall, my point with all of this is that if nearly 100% of your customers come from social media, you ought to invest nearly every dollar and every minute into it. Now, I know you wear a lot of hats. I know that you have to design your garments, and you have to do samples, and you have to communicate with manufacturers, and you have to do customer service, and so many other things. There's 101 things you need to do. All I'm suggesting is that you probably aren't, if you're like most of the brands that I work with, you probably aren't investing enough time or money into social media. And I suggest you do, because if it's true that your customers originate from social media, then put your dollars and your time into where your customers are, because that's how you increase your revenue. So it doesn't really get much more complicated than that. I think of social media like an obstacle that, once cleared, turns a slight trickle of sales into gushing rapids. And truly, I really do believe this, because I've seen it in the clothing brands. I've seen it in clothing brands, and this is the reality of the day and age in which we live in. This is the force, the driving force that social media has, especially as an e-commerce brand that you are. And so when I say social media like an obstacle, I mean, if you haven't worked it out yet, and I'm still trying to work it out. I know a few things, I don't know much relative to what there is to know and to learn, right? But if you can work it out, at least some things, it can really turn a slight trickle of sales into gushing rapids. And that is going to be the catalyst for taking your brand full time. And I wanted to finish with this graph here. Now, I don't have a good name for it other than the time, return, and money matrix. It's not a very good name. But if you can see my screen, what it is 3 bubbles, 3 overlapping bubbles. It's like a Venn diagram of 3 bubbles. One of them says time, one of them says current money, and one of them says future return. And the idea goes like this. Choose the one that you value most. Choose the bubble that you value the most, and sacrifice the other 2. Now, this is the way things work. It's just the way it happens. You cannot choose 2. You cannot sacrifice 1, right? Anyone you choose, you always sacrifice the other 2. Now, let me give you some examples. If you say that time is the most valuable thing to me, that means you have to sacrifice future return and your current money. right? You have to sacrifice future return, as in the time that you could have been spending generating wealth, you can't do. And you have to sacrifice your current expenses because you need money to live. So if you want time, you have to sacrifice those two things, right? And I'm not saying you can't do those things at all. I'm just saying there's some sacrifice that has to be made on those things. That's to say that you cannot make as much money in future return as you maybe could if you didn't care so much about time. Let me use another example. If you care about future return, so if you care about the wealth of your brand going into the future that it might provide you, then here's the two things that you need to sacrifice is time and your current money or your current finance. In other words, you're going to have to spend time and there's going to be some expenses or there's going to be some investments rather of your current cash. And so I use this to say that you have to choose one and you have to sacrifice the other two, and there's no other way about it. So choose which one that is most valuable to you and then go all out in sacrificing the other two. Go all out. And that way you have the highest likelihood of succeeding in achieving the one you value the most. So let's recap. And the format that I'm going to recap this is by telling you what I would do if I had an extra $500 of cash in the bank account and I was a streetwear brand. I would invest it in commissioning an editor for short form content. And then I would double my output to accelerate my learning. And so what I mean by that is that I would be making content as a streetwear brand owner, and then I would commission the editor to also help me make more content, but I'd keep making the content I was already making. So I'd double the output, and therefore I'd find out what works quicker. I'd be in a constant state of experimenting and iterating with what's working, what's not on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube, wherever. And so that's how I would invest my $500. And on the point of commissioning an editor, you can, this is a really great move to make if you don't have much money in the bank account or if you have a lot. Because what you can do, you can find an editor in the Philippines and they'll do $20 per short form video. You can probably find someone who'll do less. And a smart way to go about it is do a deal with them. Say, hey, I'm going to be making lots of content. If you can, would you give me a discount if I did 10 videos worth of work with you, or maybe 50 videos worth of work with you? Maybe that instead of doing $20 a video, they might do 15 or maybe 10 or whatever it is. And so just see how you can be smart about the way that you invest your cash into something like an editor. Because the thing is, on that very specific point, the more commitment you give to them, the more sacrifice they can make, because there's more security around it. So the less security there is for them, the higher their price can be, right? In a nutshell. And I really believe in the statement that every piece of every piece of content is another chance to grow your audience. Now, I don't like a lot of people say every piece of content is another chance to go viral, because going viral isn't the be all and end all. So that's why I say every piece of content is another chance to grow your audience, because all things being equal, you double your audience, you double your sales, you double your demand, you double everything. And if I had a lot of extra time, what I would do is I'd just create the content myself. Say you don't even have $500 of extra cash. Create the content yourself, right? And don't tell me you don't have time or money. You can't not have either of them. You have to make one of them, because otherwise, why would you be in business? And if you can't seem to make either of them, then maybe it's better to just work your day job. But this content is for people who are sick of working their day job, that want to be doing their streetwear brand full time. So if you haven't started, start. If you're already going, you've been going for a long time, keep going. And something you can do, if you have a lot of time, if you have more time than money, then create the content yourself. If you have more money than time, then pay someone to do it. But whatever you do, don't miss out on the opportunity that is investing into your audience, exactly where your sales are coming from. Okay, that's the end of this presentation. Quick reminder. In the description, there is a link to my school community called Streetwear 365. And inside you will find the Streetwear 365 Masterclass. And it's all about building your brand foundations. And you'll find heaps of stuff in there about how to turn your streetwear side hustle into a full-time career. Or you can go to elijahdelport.com/school. Either one works, description or elijahdelport.com/school. All right, let's take this Streetwear 365. I'll see you inside my community. And yes, thanks very much for watching.